Hey there, folks. It is story time, and I'm very excited. I might have swum really fast today, because I just got my copies of the book, and I'm very excited. Um, so we're gonna do story time, and I'm also gonna read a couple of fun things from the book or show you what it's about because I mean, that's why I'm doing this. The whole point of this live stream twice a week and every day in June. Um, is to promote this book. And so here we go. Hang on and we'll get the show started. Oh yeah, we're doing 2 Samuel 5 and 6, talking about Michal, barrenness, yada yada. Really kind of important stuff, but also a little blurb and fun things to do with my book. So, thanks for being here. Thank you for joining me live. Us, I say that because referring to everybody else, not like in the, royal we kind of way. Thanks for being here and thanks for watching later if that's what you're doing. Yeah, I'm excited. This isn't just because of caffeine running through my brains right now. I'm really pleased. I think the book, I'm just going to do this for a second here. I think the book turned out really well. I'm very pleased with, let me get that. Whoa, that's shiny. So you can see the title, the image, my name. Okay. It turned out so nicely. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. There are a handful, about a dozen or so endorsements, which all make me very pleased and I'm thankful. And I sent thank yous to all the people who took the time to do that for me. The back cover, if you want to watch this later and like pause it to read what they're saying, I'm really fortunate to have some rather impressive human beings and scholars endorse the work I'm doing. So I'm grateful to all of them. Here's the title contents if you haven't looked it up yet. So you can see that the first section is biblical marriage, as in when people talk about they want to have a biblical marriage or they talk about endorsing a biblical marriage, making legislation around or thinking about it that way. There are 4 passages that people are referring to. And so each of the first 4 chapters looks at what those passages are actually talking about instead of what people think they're talking about. The second section, marriage in the Bible. So there are three chapters in that section talking about terminology, which sounds kind of boring, but it's actually way more interesting than you think. The language around marriage. So we should probably not have a reference to husbands and wives at all in the entire Christian Bible, if we want to be honest about it. And then also the verb to marry. There are 5, several different verbs that are actually involved there. And none of them are what we mean by marry. And there's a chapter on laws, matriarchs, patriarchs, laws, and adultery. So looking at those concepts and what's being legislated about marriage and around marriage, what that tells us about their worldview, their mindset. There's a chapter on references in the Newer Testament. My cat's here in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Newer Testament references. And then the third section, that which remains, has 3 chapters. It's on 2 pages here. Making babies, ? As in that role for women in marriage. Also, what are they modeling, which I think is profoundly important in terms of, hang on a second. Hi. She's kind of insistent today. You want to say hi to everybody? Nope. But here she is. We're just going to, do this thing that she likes to do. What are they modeling? So ways that the relationship that we call marriage is used in the Bible, in particular when it's in the prophets and when people give commands to people in the community through the relationship that we call marriage. It's actually rather profoundly important, I think. And then the last chapter is called Only Heteros. And then there's, notes, bibliography, subject index, glossary, there are a couple appendices because I couldn't find a way to make it official in the content. And there's a postscript on Augustine, which in some ways might be the most important part, because that's the part where I talk about the ideas of Augustine's that the church, and therefore a lot of Western civilization, is still operating out of when it comes to marriage, sex, and sinfulness. So anyway, I just like want to read the whole thing because I'm so excited about it. I'm really pleased. It took oh, thank you for saying that, Captain Deadpool. That yeah, I'm glad to know it was featured in something a catalog you received. Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to say one thing, and then we'll get on to story time. When the scholarship that I write isn't quick read stuff. So there's a lot of public scholarship out there that is written and meant to be like a quick read. You could almost skim it and get what they're saying because they're saying it over and over. And that's good. That's actually smart writing to like make your point, say it a couple different ways, right? But there's a lot of pieces to this conversation. So I don't write things that are like, this is a read slowly and mull it over kind of a read. I'm just going to put it that way. Okay. So I heard that someone who was interviewing me, and I'm grateful for anyone who wants to. So this isn't about, but he listened to it, like had the screen reader read it to him because that was the only way he could get it done. And that's awesome. Like, everybody's busy, but he did it in 2 days. And I love that he had me, you know what I mean? Like, love that. It's better than nothing. And he took some of it in, but like, that's not the way you read my work. Just so you know. It's more like one segment or one chapter and then like come back in a few days. So I'm just putting that out there because I don't want people to be caught off guard. Okay. So that's my little plug on my book, which I'm excited. Yeah, I actually took a copy. I was almost late for story time because I took a copy down to the Starbucks where I did most of the writing, actually, and gave a copy to the baristas there and the manager and the baristas because they really were an important part of helping me get this done. So, yeah, take a deep breath here. Minerva's in the house. And we're going to do some story time. And here we go. 2 Samuel 5 and 6. Okay. 2 Samuel 5. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "Look, we are your bone and flesh. For some time, while Saul was king over us, it was you who led out Israel and brought it in. The Lord said to you, 'It is you who shall be shepherd of my people Israel, you who shall be ruler over Israel.' So all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over Israel." Bum, bum, bum. My hair's getting a little crazy here. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. This is an impressive reign, right? It's interesting the way some of these nuggets we get. At Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and at Jerusalem, he reigned over Israel and Judah 33 years. This is a really interesting detail, I think, because my cat is rubbing her face against things, in case you're wondering what that background noise is. Right, that it's, this idea of David ruling over the united kingdom, right? So the separate parts of the kingdom, or the separate parts of the people of Israel, and that he ruled over them together, brought them together, if you will, is an important element of the historicity or the historiography around David. So that's an important point to make, I think. So anyway, the king and his men marched to Jerusalem against the Jebusites. So initially there were other people living in Jerusalem, the inhabitants of the land, who said to David, "You will not come in here. Even the blind and the lame will turn you back." Thinking, David cannot come in here. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, which is now the city of David. David had said on that day, whoever would strike down the Jebusites, let him get up the water shaft to attack the lame and the blind, those whom David hates, because they've made this slur or, call at him. Therefore it is said, the blind and the lame shall not come into the house. David occupied the stronghold and named it the city of David. Feels like a lot of different, disjointed things. Oh, that's really sweet. I just happened to look over. Thank you so much, Jolly Roger. Thank you. This is because I just said that. Yeah, and you gotta love that image. Thank you, Jolly Roger. Just seems like there's a lot of disjointed ideas coming together here in this story. And I think that from time to time, and I know lots of scholarship has been written about this piece of the Hebrew Bible, but it is kind of interesting when you see it. You're like, we just kind of said that a second ago in a weird way now, and again here. Anyway. Okay, so David occupied the stronghold and named it the city of David. David built the city all around from the Millo inward, and David became greater and greater, for the Lord, the God of hosts, was with him. King Hiram of Tyre, which is a city on the coast, sent messengers to David, along with cedar trees and carpenters and masons who built David a house. It's a nice way to build up, a political alliance, right? David then perceived that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted him, his kingdom, for the sake of his people Israel. I do hesitate every time I make references to Israel, given the current climate and what's happening. But so we're talking about, 1100 BCE, 1000 BCE, if we're to trust the timeline. In Jerusalem, after he came from Hebron, David took more concubines and wives, and more sons and daughters were born to David. So, sorry, I am distracted today. David took more concubines and women, my English says wives, and more sons and daughters were born to him. These are the names of those who were born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphelet. These are the names who were born. So we're not even getting the names of the women that he took. And notice there's a distinction between women or wives and concubines. There's a distinction. Concubines are there. They may be a part of a political alliance, but they're just there for sex. David has multiple. We just read last week, David has 5 or 6 women already, and now he's taking more women. This is politics, right? This is political alliance kind of stuff, or a way to ensure you have some sort of control over an area. So there's so many, we're not even getting them named, right? Okay. And they're there producing children. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, all the Philistines went up in search of David. But David heard about it and went down to the stronghold. Now, the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you give them into my hand?" The Lord said to David, "Go up, for I will certainly give the Philistines into your hand." So David came to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. We're not getting a whole play-by-play the way we sometimes do, right? He said, "The Lord has burst forth against my enemies before me like a bursting flood." Therefore, that place is called Baal Perazim. The Philistines abandoned their idols there, and David and his men carried them away. Once again, the Philistines came up and were spread out in the valley of Rephaim. When David inquired of the Lord, he said, "You shall not go up. Go around to their rear and come upon them opposite the balsam trees. When you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, then be on the alert. For then the Lord has gone out before you to strike down the army of the Philistines." It's a fascinating little snippet. David goes to inquire, and then I guess the person to whom he spoke speaks on God's behalf, right? Just like we'd have with the prophets, just like we have, yada, yada, yada. But it's coming straight from the Lord, apparently. That's the way it's being predicted or depicted. David did just as the Lord had commanded him, and he struck down the Philistines from Geba all the way to Gezer. Chapter 6. Now David again gathered all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. David and all the people. It's so funny. I'm sorry. I'm going to pause to make sure you understand why I included chapter 5. So I just read through a whole bunch of random stuff about David and taking cities and things. And in the midst of it, there's this quick little thing about David taking women and concubines and the children they produced. That was important enough to include in the narrative. Thank you for that. We don't name the women this time. They're an important part of establishing David as king and as, all the things. It's terribly important. And yet, what is happening here? Women are objects and baby makers. Thank you. Okay. So that's why I included chapter 5. And then this chapter has some more interesting things about the way the biblical narrative, or people who write the biblical narrative, speak about barrenness or a woman's ability to bring children into the world. So hang in there with me. So chapter 6, David again gathered all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. David and all the people with him set out and went from Baale Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord. We've got some rearranging going on here, so I'm going to have to pause here for a minute. Hey, what's going on? What's going on, little one? You're not getting enough love? Yeah, okay. So the ark of the Lord, which is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned on the cherubim. They carried the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were driving the new cart with the ark of God, and Ahio went in front of the ark. David and all the house of Israel were dancing before the Lord with all their might, with songs and lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals. We've got a serious band going on here, right? When they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him there because he reached out his hand to the ark, and he died there beside the ark of God. So this is a terrifying story. You're actually trying to protect the thing, and you get struck dead for it. Trying to make a point about the holiness of God and the presence of God, and the ark represents the presence of the Lord. So we're trying to make some sort of comment about that, right? That you're not even to touch the thing that represents the presence of God. It's a great story, right? Works. David was angry because the Lord had burst forth with an outburst upon Uzzah. How dare you! So that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. Because bursting out against Uzzah is how you would, and that's one at Perez, bursting out, right? David was afraid of the Lord that day. He said, "How can the ark of the Lord come into my care?" I mean, somebody's going to be dusting it and drop dead, right? So David was unwilling to take the ark of the Lord into his care in the city of David. Instead, David took it to the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite. I mean, is he trying to get people killed? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Festering boils. Oh my God, some of you have some of the best names, but right? I mean, it's an interesting point, right? Elsewhere, God is slow to anger, right? But not here. And yeah, and also different traditions and blah blah blah, and we've got different points in time and different points we're trying to make. But yeah, good, point noted, right? Yeah. So right, so is David trying to get Obed-Edom killed. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. So it was told King David, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him because the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom. You don't get to have all those blessings, right? To the city of David with rejoicing. This is that scene. I don't know if you all have heard about this, but this is one of the few scenes where dancing is depicted very, very clearly in the Bible, especially for those who are Baptist or who have been around Baptists. You know, what's the joke? Dancing is, oh no, do they say it backward? Do they say, no, you can't have sex standing up because it might lead to dancing. Yeah, because dancing is for bits kind of a thing. Anyway, okay. Right. So he brought it with rejoicing. And when those who bore the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, picture this now, please take a moment to picture this. When those who bore the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. Okay, first of all, I don't care if it's just 3 blocks away, but it's got to be farther than that. This is a bit wasteful. It's a bit extravagant, which is the point that we're trying to make with the story, right? It's very extravagant. You got a lot of blood running in those streets, if you know what I'm saying. Like, that's just a lot of blood. But we're going to have a serious feast because we're killing a whole bunch. We're killing basically 2 herds of animals just to get this. I don't think it actually happened, but that's what they're depicting, right? Okay. David danced before the Lord with all his might, right? David was girded with a linen ephod, which is basically to say he's in his undies, okay? So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the shout of the trumpet. As the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. This is the only woman who belongs to David who was said to have loved him initially. And now she despises him. Why? She sees him dancing, having a good old time. What is it, right? They brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and offerings of well-being before the Lord. All those animals they just slaughtered on the trail, you know. When David had finished offering the burnt offerings and the offerings of well-being, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts and distributed food among all the people, the whole multitude of Israel, both men and women. Pay attention to this part. And to each a cake of bread, a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins. I don't know if you know this, folks, but that's an offering you make to Asherah. A cake of raisins. Then all the people went back to their homes. Since it's being offered in a worship kind of a context, right? He's offering these things to the Lord, and he's then presenting them. He's burnt the animals, you know, the smoke goes up to the heavenly realm, which is where they believed God lived, you know. And so, because it's happening in that kind of a context, it's really fascinating to me that they make specific reference to raisin cakes. Just food for thought. David returned to bless his household, but Michal, the daughter of Saul, because we can't talk about women without making sure we understand their connection to a man. We do that for a lot of men in the Bible too. I understand that, but it's just, you know, like we might have forgotten who she is. I don't know. But Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How the king of Israel honored himself today, uncovering himself today before the eyes of his servants' maids, as any vulgar fellow might shamelessly uncover himself." So she's embarrassed because he's practically naked. And that's not very becoming of a king. Is that what's going on? David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord who chose me in place of your father and all his household to appoint me as prince over Israel, the people of the Lord, that I have danced before the Lord. I will make myself yet more contemptible than this, and I will be abased in my own eyes. But by the maids of whom you've spoken, by them I shall be held in honor. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death, because that's how you shame a woman, is you make it impossible for her to give birth. You depict her as infertile. You depict her as not being able to do the main role that women are talked about having on the planet when it comes to the Bible. I just, so I teach an intro to the Hebrew Bible course every term at a community college, fully online. So I don't actually get to interact with them face to face. And so it can be quite difficult to make some of the points I'm trying to make. I ask them to read things and I point out some things, but they don't always get it all. But when it comes to the story of Jephthah in Judges chapter 11, I always try to point out, why is it that his daughter is mourning? What is it she's mourning before she dies? She's not mourning that she's going to die without having sex. She's mourning that she doesn't get to fulfill her role as socially prescribed for her, which is to give sex to a man. Her role on the planet, she's been trained since a child, is to give sex to a man and hopefully then children. That's what's going on here. So it is just stunning to me that we have this kind of really blatant, clear depiction of women being property. David took a whole bunch of women in the last chapter. And then Michal, the one who's supposed to love him, like the only one who actually loved him, according to the storylines, just being fed up that he's careless, or maybe he isn't mature enough. Maybe he isn't sophisticated enough to contend with an Egyptian king, right? Maybe she's annoyed that he doesn't get it. He's not, he's too much of a redneck. I'm a bit of a redneck, so I'm not, it's not a slur, but that's a reality, right? I'm a bit of a redneck. It's just who I am. I can't really help it. There's a lot of things going on here, but the fact that Michal's punishment for mocking the king of Israel is that she would not produce any children. I think that's important. That's all I want you to hang on to today, is this objectification of women, all of that. Okay. I am That's funny. I like that. What is PM? I feel like I'm missing something. Raisins are high in testosterone like eggs. Didn't know that. It's getting holy in here. Take off all your clothes. Let's see. Okay. This is an interesting question. How is giving life lesser than? I don't understand that. And I actually don't understand the question, which is why I posted it or shared it. Not to, I don't understand the question. Okay. So, that's all there is for today. If you're just now joining us, I want to point out, because I did this at the beginning, I'm super excited. I think the adrenaline is finally starting to wear down after about 5 hours. My copies of my book came in the mail today, and I did put together a quick little video, which I have uploaded on the socials. I haven't done it here at YouTube yet, but it's on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. But I'm really excited that my book's finally here. I do think this is the most important thing I will produce in terms of scholarship in my life. Like this is not a quick read. This is a really important book to me. It comes out of 11 years of trying to help people in faith communities wrestle with these texts, but it also comes out of 30 years of trying to be a good teacher, a good educator. what I mean is, this book isn't just for people in a Christian or Jewish context. This book is for anyone who's interested in the conversations happening. I tried to frame it in terms of this is a global conversation. When people talk about, you know, when it's illegal to have sex with same sex, when it's illegal for two men to have sex, when that's a thing in your country, that comes out of this. Like, that comes out of what people think about sex and marriage, which is informed by, in part, at least in Western countries, it's informed by what people think the Bible says, not what it actually says. There's so many fun little things in this book, like side notes in this book. So, for instance, and there were things that surprised me as I was researching for them. So let me share one little. This is kind of random, but I'm gonna share it anyway. There's so many little sidebars, but I'm gonna do. Yeah, so many. Here's a random one. Okay, so like in context, it's gonna be even more powerful. But text box in chapter 4. The chapter 4 is on the passage Ephesians 5, 31 and 32. It is worth noting that Augustine believed that humans would indeed be better off abstaining from sexual intercourse altogether. Like, just take that home and mull it over for a while. Like, how does that actually work out for people if that's actually true, and people actually take that to heart? Here's another one. Here's a text box from chapter 3. At its heart, the eunuch is a figure who stands outside of the male-female gender binary. I think people know that, right? But in the first century, Jesus is talking about him. So the figure who stands outside of the male-female gender binary and heterosexist paradigms, right? Because eunuchs were having sex with men and women. Jesus holds up this figure as someone to emulate. Just something to think about, right? This is one of my favorites. Also, the previous page. Eunuchs were universally characterized. Think about this. Seriously, think about this. Eunuchs were universally characterized by the frequency, ease, and adeptness with which they performed sex acts with both men and women. And Jesus holds them up as someone to emulate. Like, seriously, I think that's all that Christians need to read, right? Like the chapter on 19, 4-6, because if people want to there's just so much. There's so much. And I'm excited it's finally in the world. And I'm going to put, if you go to Roman and Littlefield, it's actually just ROWMAN.com. Littlefield FANDF30. You can use a 30% discount because right now it's only in hardback. It will be in paperback soon, but right now it's in hardback, so it's $32. So on the publisher website, you can get a 30% discount using that code that I just put in the chat. RLFANDF30. That's all I have for today. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? I'll do a little song and dance to see if people have any questions. It's a short one for today. People in the United States in general are preparing for Thanksgiving. Not everybody, because it's not really a thing. It's a tough thing for me to celebrate Thanksgiving. Like, I can't ignore origins. Like, I just can't. And it comes out of, is it Naomi Wolf? What's the woman's name? Who's a great, Janet Wolf, that comedian. Yeah, this is some serious, that's some serious rebranding that happened there, right? Semi-genocide, significantly, almost entirely a genocide. And you rebranded something for giving thanks. Like, it's impressive. Put the yep. Let's put the hang on. Let me put the thing up. Let me put the Roman. Yep. Here's the yep. Thank you for that, Nitty. And here's, well, it is, but it's all good. It's all good. There's the website. Thank you. Don't paste that exact string into Google. You get rugby. Oh, hilarious. That string that I just typed, that's just for the discount codes. That's not gonna get you anywhere. I'm not sure if that's what you meant. Maybe you meant something else. Okay, the male sex drive, thank you for that. The male sex dri okay, let's put this up. Again, I didn't read this ahead of time. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm trying to see what's gonna and let you see what I'm looking at. The male sex drive is so powerful, though. I can tell you that, and it could go in all different directions and get so intense beyond your imagination. Okay. Wasn't even okay, I don't okay, I think Miss Seaside Hill Granny has been partaking of things before coming to the conversation today. Okay. Um, okay. There's something else happening in the chat today. I don't know what's going on. Something's happening. Okay. Thank you for being here. Those of you who are able to and wanted to, thank you for watching later if you do. Obviously, I'm excited about my book. I know that websites say that the book isn't even out yet, but it is because obviously I'm holding it, and all of the people who blurbed it already have copies, and it was at the conference this last weekend, and so it is out in the world. Anywhere you buy books, you can get it. Marriage in the Bible. What do the texts say? But I appreciate that you all show up and you chit chat and you support me in all kinds of ways, whether it's subscribing to my channel or passing along a video that you really liked, telling friends about the work I do. My second book, Permission Granted, is really helpful for people who are just deconstructing, or who have who are just curious about what's going on in the Bible. That book is about essentially all the important topics that I would present in an intro course to the Bible over 2 semesters and put it into a book. So, working on a video series that's similar to it and related and kind of goes deeper and into some other things. But so that book is out. That book is out there. The audio is, I did the reading for it on Audible. And then Marriage in the Bible, that's just now out. I'm so excited. It's kind of a boring cover, but I did that on purpose. I want people to know that I'm serious. I am grounded. This is not in your face. Here's some things to think about. Here's what's really going on. That kind of a thing. Okay. So thanks for all the ways you support me. If you want to support me if you find the work I do helpful and interesting, I love it when people say, I'm chipping in $5-10 a month because I appreciate your work. It helps me. All the different ways that people support me help me, and I appreciate it. So I'm Biblical Bird in Patreon if you're interested. And my website has all the other stuff that I'm into and up to. JenniferGraceBird.com. So thanks, Tux TV. And I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for being here. I'm not going to go do a stream on Thanksgiving. That seems silly for lots of reasons. So I'll be back next week. See you then.